Hi YouTube and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the state of cybersecurity in 2024, and let me tell you, it's not looking good. So a lot has happened this year and we're only halfway through it. Everything from remote code execution vulnerabilities in routers to unpatched bugs in Windows that existed for over a year that were exploited by threat actors. Cybersecurity is a mess right now, and we're going to talk about that. So first of all, I want to share some of my anecdotal insights. So I wrote 3 pieces of code for Windows that could be classified as malware if they're used by the wrong person for the wrong reasons. I did this as an educational exercise just to test the waters and see how the security of my Windows computer was. And so I wrote 3 different pieces of code. One of them is a login stealer, so it goes into Chrome, steals all of your saved passwords, and then uploads it to a server. One of them is an encryptor, so it'll actually go in and encrypt all the files on your computer and upload copies to a remote server. And the third one was a remote access tool. And what that does is it goes into Windows and it gets you persistent remote access to any Windows machine. And I employed several methods in this that you see in real-life attacks right now. Fileless methods, so the idea is that the code never drops a file that can be analyzed on the machine. And also I employed living off the land methodology. So instead of bringing my own software or installing anything, I'm just using the built-in tools and commands that come with Windows. And here's the reason why I bring this up. Because none of them got caught by Windows Defender. None of them. And this is malicious behavior. Like, there's no legitimate reason why you'd want to do these things, and unless it's for educational purposes. And I've submitted all of these to Microsoft. And speaking of which, it's been about a month since I sent these into Microsoft, and they have done nothing to address it. It just says that the upload status on my submissions is pending, and it's just not going anywhere. So after I give Microsoft some more time to patch these holes, get some detections in place, I will be releasing the code behind these 3 pieces of Windows code that I wrote. But look, the fact of the matter is Windows Defender does nothing to catch any custom code that you write. It does nothing to identify the anomalous behavior, the behavior of these malicious programs. And it's just not a good look. So Windows in particular has been failure after failure after failure on the security front. I want to pull up an article that I read about Windows just recently. Alright, so there was a 0-day that allowed remote code execution on Windows, and it existed for over a year before it was patched. The bad guys had been exploiting this for the last year, over a year. They've been exploiting this, and Microsoft did nothing to fix it. So I'll leave a link to that article in the comments down below. So here's the thing about that, right? So obviously, you would think that there would be some kind of regulation around this kind of stuff. Well, there is, but it's not very watertight. One of the biggest problems is that, in my opinion, this is an opinion that I'm saying not saying this is fact, but the US government is not really incentivized to actually punish cybersecurity issues. Let's talk about why. So the fact of the matter is, from the US government's point of view, there is a sliding scale. And on one end, it's really easy to spy on people, and on the other end, things are really secure. And so why would the US government be incentivized to make things really secure when they can end up somewhere here in the middle and make things a little bit easier for them to spy on people? That's really what it boils down to. And I don't think that I'm crazy, I don't think that I'm a conspiracy nut for saying this, but I just don't think that the US government is incentivized to take cybersecurity seriously. When you have flaws like this in Windows, where it existed for over a year, you know that the alphabet soup boys, the FBI, the NSA, you know that they were aware of this, right? And you know Microsoft was aware of this. And this isn't a 0-day, this is a 1.5 year vulnerability, not a 0-day. And, it's the type of thing where you would expect it to get patched quickly, right? Microsoft says that your security is their top priority. The United States government, CISA, they say that security is their top priority, but I'm just not believing that, judging by their actions. They've done nothing to enforce proper security standards in the software that we rely on a daily basis. Our infrastructure is insecure. That's just a fact. Let's look at that at&t hack that happened the other day. So almost all of at&t's customers had the metadata about their text messages hacked. So it wasn't the contents of your text messages, just who you texted and when. That's a big problem. Let's talk about that. So on the surface, that doesn't sound so bad. Who cares if someone knows when I texted my brother, when I texted my father, right? You shouldn't care about that. Well, let's say that I'm a woman who has been SA'd and I need to get an abortion, but I live in Texas. And I texted my family that I'm going to go over state lines so I can get this life-saving operation that they will refuse to give me in Texas. And now, because of this leak, you can see that I maybe called Planned Parenthood. You can see that I texted my mother right after calling Planned Parenthood. And you can very easily put together a dossier on all of a person's activities just based on who they communicated with and when. So this is very dangerous. So at&t isn't necessarily to blame there, although I am going to blame them. The problem is this is not the first time something like this has happened, right? at&t, like Microsoft, has moved from security failure to failure to failure to failure. And you know what's happening? at&t is still around. The US government is not doing enough to punish these types of failures. And I think my opinion is that that is because the US government benefits directly from these security failures in their efforts to spy on all of us. And obviously, I don't think the government's after me. I don't do anything important. I don't do anything special. But if maybe you don't agree with the current administration, right? I know that there are people who don't agree with the Trump administration, like me. There are people who don't agree with the Biden administration. And my point in saying this is that you are going to live under an administration in the US that you don't agree with. That is going to happen eventually. And if you decide to speak up against the things that you think are wrong, it doesn't matter what those things are, right? I'm not trying to make a political grandstanding statement here. I'm just saying that at some point we're all going to disagree with what the government's doing. When that happens, you want to be damn sure that your communications about that are kept private, because you should not trust the government not to abuse that. They have proven time and time again that they will take advantage of security flaws in order to further the existence of certain administrations. So it's a very serious situation, and again, the problem is the United States government doesn't have the level of understanding at the legislation level, and they don't have the motivation to actually enforce proper protections for our important data, the story of our lives. It is out there for anybody to see. And the problem here is that a lot of people say, I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to hide. Answer me this, do you shit with the door open? Do you leave the blinds on your windows open when you go to bed? Because you're not trying to hide anything, but you don't want people to see you when you're shitting. And that boils down to this fact. Dignity relies on privacy. Privacy is a prerequisite for dignity. If you don't have privacy, you don't have dignity. That's just the fact of the matter here. And so, when it comes to ensuring people's privacy, this is where cybersecurity comes in the picture. And the fact of the matter is, our infrastructure, all the world of things that we rely on every day as a part of our daily lives, is so massively insecure, so easy to exploit, so simple to take advantage of, that we are all at serious risk right now. And so I think the most important thing that we can do is pay attention to our personal security. We need to take ownership of our own security because nobody's going to do it for us. We need to take ownership of our privacy, our security. It needs to be us that sees this stuff through. And even if you have nothing to hide, again, there's going to be an administration in the government in the future that you don't agree with. And maybe they're going to do something that violates your privacy. And when that happens, do you really want to be on that list at the FBI for people who disagree with the administration? I don't think so. But it's just a fact of life that sometimes you're going to have to speak up against something that you think is wrong. And when that time comes, you're going to want to be sure that the people who disagree with you don't have access to the story of your life, to the information about everything you do, when and where. It puts you in danger. That's the real issue here. It's, cybersecurity is about computers. And a lot of people say, oh, it's a computer thing. It doesn't affect me. Computers permeate everything that we do in life. And the fact of the matter is, we're not safe. And trust me, I know, I work every day to secure a company as my day job. And it is a treadmill. There is never a point in time where I feel like we're properly secured, because I can't rely on the people who make our software to make it in a secure way. It is a big problem. You see it with supply chain attacks. Let's talk about SolarWinds, all of that kind of stuff, Log4j. And, Linux isn't immune to this either. There's the XC backdoor, where somebody put malicious code into a dummy test file in the XZ compression utility, and that was going to backdoor all of the secure shell connections that people rely on Linux to do everything. And so, again, I think that we need to take charge of our privacy and security. There's nobody else out there who is going to take your privacy and security as their own burden. It is something that you must personally see through. And that means choosing the right tools, choosing the right days, choosing the right apps. And at the end of the day, we're in a bad situation right now. Things are as bad as they ever could have been on the front of cybersecurity. Anything can happen. Anything. And this is not a good situation. It's something that we need to we need to figure out a way to incentivize our lawmakers to actually try to make laws that enforce better security. We need to be taking the executives, the shareholders at these massive companies like AT&T and Microsoft, and we need to hold them responsible for the cybersecurity failings of their company. It is their leadership that has failed you. It is the executives at Microsoft, the executives at AT&T. They have let you down. They do not have your best interests at heart, and they've proven that. I mean, sure, this is just my opinion. You look at the facts, you look at what they've done, come to your own opinion about it. But what I'm getting at is that we need to hold the people in leadership positions at these companies responsible. That means jail time. That means massive fines against them personally. If you're the CTO at Microsoft and you let this vulnerability sit here for over a year and get exploited by nation-state attackers, undermining the security and privacy of all of the people in the nation that you call home, then you should go to jail for that. Just my opinion. But we have to start doing something to hold people accountable. Otherwise, things are just going to keep getting worse. Anyway, my name is Patrick. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, leave them for me in the comments, and I hope I'll talk to you again soon.